Hey everyone, just wanted to do a quick update concerning an asset that I've reviewed in the past called Magic Arsenal by ARCHANOR VFX. I wanted to mention this because it's part of the current Unity Summer Asset Sale. This one will be on sale for a few more days. I believe the sale runs from Tuesday through Monday, and then the following Tuesday, they then change the assets out. So I'm recording this on a Friday night, so it'll be on sale for a couple more days. That gives you a chance to watch this video to see if this is an asset that would meet some of your needs. Anyways, so I had purchased this asset in the past, so I figured I could whip this up really quick to give you guys an example of what this package can do. And just so you know, I am not at all affiliated with them. It's just I've been purchasing these assets to do reviews to help you guys make a decision as to whether or not these assets would help you in your projects. Anyways, so what you see in front of you, this character is from another asset package. This is from Downrain DC, but that's not really what I was wanting to demonstrate. Not to mention I've shown them in other videos as well. So basically this is going to be like a Diablo style attack where the camera is top down and your character does an attack and then it's launching out towards enemy in whatever direction, okay? So what we have our character and he has animations attached to him. That's really not too important because most of them are going to be ignored. I'll talk about those in just a second, but I will mention that by default, he goes to idle. That's just the way the developer set it up, which works out for our purposes. So by default, he's in an idle animation, and what we want to do is we want to press the mouse button, and when we press the mouse button down, he then launches this attack. Well, how do we do that? Well, it's pretty easy. So we need a script. I just called it // because that's really all we're doing, but it would actually be your main character controller. So public transform /attack, that's how we're going to make a reference to the object that is actually the visual that we want to display when they do the attack. It's actually going to be an earth attack, but you could use any of them that you want. In fact, I might cycle through a few of them. In the update section, we're simply going to check to see if the mouse has been pressed down. If input.getMouseDown 0. So 0 is the left mouse button, 1 is the right mouse button, 2 is pressing down on the scroll wheel, okay? So you could do any one of those to get the effect that you want. This is remarked out. I just wanted to call your attention to this because whenever I am introducing new functionality, particularly when it's based on a collision or input, I always test that base code first with a debug log just to make sure that get mouse button down 0 really does register. I want to make sure I didn't make a typo or something like that. So that's the only reason why the debug is there. I could have just deleted it, but I wanted to call that out as what I consider a best practice, that before you get into this complex functionality, just make sure the mouse button is actually working. Just make sure the collision is actually working. And you can do that just with debug.log and then some string that gets printed in the console. It'll be down here. There's an error message down here, but don't worry about that. Okay, so what happens when we press the left mouse button down? It plays an attack animation. So get component animator play attack 01. So let's go back to that attack animation. So here's the animator and here's idle. Now, if you notice, this is a transition, but it's only one directional, which means idle will just keep cycling by itself. When you press the left mouse button, see how this matches attack underscore 01? It means go ahead and play that. And then rather than coding, I simply use a transition. That's just right click, make transition, you drag and you link it to there. And what will happen is as soon as this animation is done, it will automatically go back to idle. And now you have your loop again. Okay, so if you press the left mouse button, then that will play. But since there's a little bit of a windup, he raises his axe and then pounds it down, you really don't want the attack to instantiate right away. Presuming there isn't any kind of charge, that you might have a visual animation that shows like a charge, well then that's fine. But if you don't, and this attack animation automatically plays, then you're going to want a little bit of a delay. You want him to be able to do his wind up, and then when the axe hits the ground, then you want this ground pound to appear. So that's why we have this enumerator wait to attack. You can call it whatever you want, but that's what it's doing. It's waiting to do the play the animation. Yield return new, wait for seconds. As I've said before, I'm not going to explain that in detail. I'm just going to say that you need to type that. And ultimately what you're doing is you're waiting for a period of time measured in seconds. And in this case, it's 0.3. And if you use a decimal, you have to use the letter F. That's pretty typical for Unity that if in almost anywhere, if you're putting in a decimal, you have to drop an F after it, or else, at least in coding, when you're writing in the text editor, you have to use the letter F or it confuses Unity. Like if you're doing a vector 3 and it's a decimal, you got to drop in the letter F. Okay, so it waits 3/10 of a second, and then what happens? Instantiate. And as I said before, there's three arguments. What is an instantiated, where it's an instantiated, and the rotation of it. And depending on what you're doing, you may want the rotation of the object that, in this case, is you might want the position in the object of what's doing the attack, in this case, the main character. Sometimes you might want the rotation of the prefab itself, so the object that's being instantiated. Maybe it's meant to have a default rotation. So none of these are absolutely right or wrong. It's all depending what you're doing. In this case, since it's a player attack, I want it to instantiate where the player is and using the player's rotation. Why? Because I'm trying to shoot this forward. Okay. So those three arguments: what is instantiated, where it's instantiated, and the rotation of the object that's being instantiated. So transform.position, transform.rotation. Again, 1, 2, 3 arguments. Okay. Now what we just need to do is when you press the mouse button, we need to say that this needs, whoops, sorry about that. We need to say that that needs to be done. So start coroutine, and it's the name of the routine followed by parentheses. So basically it's this inside another set of parentheses. And that's almost it. So what we do now, we take our player character and we put our script on it. And then here's the slash attack. So we just need to put the prefab on it. So if we go to Magic Arsenal, we go to Effects, we go to Prefabs, and then we go to Cleave. This is the one that we want. And if you double click, you can preview these. So, and yes, you could have a different one associated with each button. So you know how I mentioned 0, 1, and 2? Well, you could have one of these for 0, one of these for 1, and one of these for 2. Might do that as well. Okay, so let's click on him. So slash attack, we're going to do an earth cleave because basically he's hitting the ground with his axe. Now, this isn't going to be quite right. The size is going to be too big, but I just want to show you this. That's part of the whole reason why I do these implementations, is that I kind of want things to go a little bit wrong, and so I can show you whether or not it's easy to get past that. So it's going to be too big, but it's going to be easy to get past that. So if I haven't forgotten anything, this should work already. So as I said, press left, and the timing was pretty good. I think it's spawning a little bit too quickly, but again, you know how to do it. You're just putting in the appropriate delay, and it's going to depend on what asset you're using. I happen to be using this asset. You're going to be using whatever you're using. So the time isn't something that you need to memorize as far as the exact value. Just know that you have to put some kind of delay in there, or else as soon as he starts lifting his axe, it's going to shoot out and look completely wrong. Okay, so I said that attack was kind of big. So can you shrink this? Absolutely. So let's go to that Earth Cleave prefab, and then you can just reduce the scale. So let's make this like 0.6, 0.6, 0.6. And now you may say, well, what about the other aspects? Yes, you can freely edit other aspects. That is way beyond the scope of this video. That's just up to you messing around if you were to decide to buy this and making modifications. That's just like I said, well beyond the scope of this video. All right, so we shrunk the size. Now watch the difference. See, much smaller. That's probably something I'd actually use in a game. Okay, so let's make a couple quick tweaks because this went really fast. We said that, tell you what, I'll get rid of this now that I explained debug. Let's do this. And now we'll do button 1. And we'll do another transform. So you need to have one of these for each object, obviously. So public transform. And we'll call this whatever, another attack. I can't be bothered to look to see which one I'm going to use. Okay, so there's arcane, there's fire. Let's just do arcane since we're just doing this for demonstrative purposes. So again, you have the second one here. So we'll put arcane there. And now we just have to modify that we want to. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to now, since this isn't being played right away, we have to track which button was pressed, either left or right mouse button. So we're going to use another variable, and what we're going to do is we'll just say let's just do private, and we'll do, and there's lots of ways that you could do this. I'm just going to use a numerical value, so a variable. So private float which button and we'll just say which button equals 0, which button equals 1. And you can use an if statement down here, or you could do a switch statement. I'm just going to do if. So if which button equals 0, I'm sorry, it's a double equals. If which button equals 1, then we do another attack. You, as a best practice, you probably should put the squiggly brackets, but you don't actually have to when it's just one line. So if it's one line after the if, you don't have to. But I can't tell you how many times I started with just one line, then I added 2, 3, 4, and it suddenly stopped working. So it's really a best practice, in my opinion, to add the squigglies. I don't think there's any kind of performance impact there. So, and again, it would be a little bit more efficient to use a switch statement, a select switch. I'd have to check to see the coding, but again, it's only 2 choices, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so if I did not forget anything, then, and what you could do is if you have multiple attacks, you could have a different attack play rather than attack 1, because really the only difference between these two is which button is the value of the which button variable. All right, so I think I did not forget anything. So if we left mouse click that, if we right mouse click that, there you go. So you can just keep stacking on that. You could, rather than right mouse button, you could map it to the keyboard where it's button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of like MMOs used to do. So I'll do just one more variation. Say it needs to be charged. In other words, it's not when you press the button, it's when you let the button go. Well, then what? Well, let's do that with the earth. So it's not get mouse button, get button up. Oops, is it? Sorry, it's get mouse button up. My apologies. Get mouse button up. So as you can see, there's 3 versions. So what's the difference? If you do get key or get mouse or get button, okay, it means that for every single frame, because you got to remember, update is performed every single frame. If you just say get mouse, get key, get button, every single frame that button is pressed, this will execute. If you do get mouse or get key or get button down, then it only executes for that one frame that the mouse or the key or the button is pressed down. If you do get mouse button up, it's only true for the one frame that you released it. So if you think about how a charge works, you press a button, you hold it, you let go, and then it executes. So think of kind of like a fighting game where you, like I think it was Jax in the original Mortal Kombat 2, you had to hold, I think it was low punch, and then when you let go of low punch, he did his ground pound, kind of like that. So that's the difference. So if it's just get key, get button, get mouse, then it's true every frame that that button is being held. If it's down, then it's only the frame that you press it down. If it's up, then it's only the frame that it's up. So we've done get mouse button up for 0, which means that when I press it, it won't be true. It's only true when I let it go. So again, you would do this for like a charge attack because it's a big hit. And then you might do something else like have them be immobile, that kind of thing. And let's see if I didn't break it. So I'm going to left click and I'm going to let go. Sure enough, it worked. Can't prove it because you didn't hear me click the mouse, but it is indeed working. So I think that's about it. That's really all I wanted to do in this video, was to again let you know that as part of the Unity summer sale that this asset is on sale, and hopefully this will help you make a decision as to whether or not you think it's worth purchasing. Again, I'm not affiliated with them. I've just been purchasing these assets to try to give you guys a heads up as to what might be useful to you in your projects. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, please consider liking the video. If there's another asset you'd like to see, please leave a comment. Let me know what that asset is, because there are other ones that are on sale. And if you'd be so kind, please consider subscribing. Only approximately 5% of the people who, or should I say 5% of the views come from people who are subscribed. So please enjoy the rest of your day.